17-year-old Asia Cowell, a bright and ambitious teenager from Norfolk, Virginia, USA, had her life tragically cut short in a brutal act of violence. On September 7th, 2020, after going about her usual routine and completing a hair appointment, Asia vanished without a trace. Her disappearance prompted a missing person investigation by local authorities, which tragically ended 2 weeks later when her decomposed body was discovered in a wooded area behind a strip club in Newport, Virginia. Asia had been lured under false pretenses, kidnapped, and ultimately murdered in cold blood. The investigation led to the arrest of 3 individuals who were all charged in connection to her murder. The case, which initially left investigators and the community baffled, unfolded to reveal a horrifying plot aimed at silencing Asia before she could testify in court against her ex-boyfriend. Asia Cowell was born on May 28, 2003, in Norfolk, Virginia, to her parents Leonetta Cowell and Travis Simmons. From an early age, Asia stood out for her kindness, sense of humor, and generous spirit. Her bright smile and big heart made a lasting impression on those around her. Despite facing the challenge of being bullied, she displayed remarkable resilience and strength, managing to rise above it all. Asia had a natural love for the arts, especially dancing and singing, and treasured the moments she spent with her loved ones. She was a student at Granby High School, and by the age of 17, she had already envisioned the future she wanted for herself. She was driven by a desire to help others and dreamed of making a real impact in the world. Her determination and compassion made her a truly inspiring young woman. In addition to attending school, Asia held a job at Papa John's and pursued her passion for entrepreneurship. She was skilled in hairstyling and had begun building her brand as a fashion designer, juggling all of this while still a teenager. Around this time, Asia began dating a 19-year-old man named Decomposed. However, the relationship became troubled, and by May 2020, she decided to end it. Unfortunately, Deshaun was not ready to move on. He forcibly took Asia and allegedly attempted to sexually assault her. Following the terrifying incident, Asia contacted the police and pressed charges against him. Deshaun was arrested and held in jail, awaiting trial. Meanwhile, Asia continued focusing on school, eagerly anticipating her graduation in 2021. But she would never make it to that milestone. On September 7, 2020, Asia went about her day as usual. She had scheduled a hair appointment with a client, and after completing the job, she was supposed to call her aunt for a ride. That call never came. When her family couldn't reach her, they grew concerned and reported her missing. Law enforcement launched an investigation, interviewing friends and relatives, but no leads emerged. Asia had vanished without a trace. Her family and community organized search parties, beginning their efforts near Harris Teeter on Granby Street. Hope kept them going, but 2 weeks passed with no sign of her. Then, on September 23, 2020, a grim discovery was made. At around 11:15 a.m., the Newport News Police Department received a report about a deceased individual. The body was severely decomposed, with skin already peeling. Officers arrived at the wooded area near Warwick Boulevard and processed the scene. The body was soon identified as 17-year-old Asia Cowell. She had been murdered. The news devastated her loved ones and the local community. With no immediate suspects or arrests, the case remained a mystery. Online, the hashtag Justice for Asia began spreading as people demanded answers and accountability. Months passed, and finally, on December 2, 2020, authorities arrested 2 individuals connected to Asia's murder, 30-year-old Crystal Kaiser Albritton and 17-year-old Daja Feaster. Details about how investigators tracked them down were initially withheld. The following day, a 3rd suspect was arrested, Crystal's husband, 38-year-old Devin Albritton. All 3 faced charges of murder and conspiracy. During police interrogations, both Crystal and Devin denied being involved in Asia's death. However, Daja, overwhelmed by fear of facing life in prison, decided to reveal what had truly happened. Daja was, in fact, the sister of Decomposed, the man Asia had pressed charges against. Deshaun was awaiting trial on multiple charges, including attempted sexual assault. Fearing that Asia's testimony would result in a harsh sentence for him, Daja and Crystal decided to ensure that she would never make it to court. On September 7th, 2020, the same day Asia vanished, Crystal contacted Asia under the guise of booking a hair appointment. Asia agreed and went to Crystal's residence, located near Granby Street and Little Creek Road. Inside the home were Crystal, her husband Devin, and Daja. As soon as Asia arrived, she was restrained and tied to a bar stool. Her phone and personal belongings were taken, and she was blindfolded. She was then forced into an SUV, with Crystal behind the wheel and Daja in the back seat, holding a firearm to control her. Meanwhile, Devin stayed behind to dispose of Asia's phone and belongings. They drove Asia more than 30 miles to Newport News. There, behind a strip club in a secluded wooded area, the nightmare escalated. Asia was forced to walk deep into the woods before being ordered to stop. Scared and crying, she pleaded for her life and promised not to testify. But Crystal had made up her mind. Frustrated that Daja couldn't bring herself to pull the trigger, Crystal took the gun and ordered Asia to turn around. As she did, Crystal shot her in the back of the head. Asia's body was left there, undiscovered for 2 weeks. When the suspects were brought to justice, the court heard the chilling details of the crime. Devin Albritton was sentenced to 50 years in prison, with 11 years suspended. He maintained that he had no idea a murder was going to take place, and that his only role was disposing of Asia's phone and the weapon. Daja Feaster, who cooperated with authorities, accepted a plea deal and received a 20-year prison sentence. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Crystal Albritton pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison for the cold-blooded murder of Asia Cowell. Asia's life was filled with promise, talent, and love. She had goals, dreams, and a future. That future was stolen from her in a senseless act of violence. May she rest in peace, and may her story continue to inspire justice and change. The tragic story of Asia Cowell offers several powerful and sobering lessons. Here are 5 key takeaways. 1. Domestic violence and controlling relationships can escalate dangerously. Asia's relationship with Dizian Coram began like many teen romances, but when she tried to walk away, it turned violent. Her story shows how leaving an unhealthy relationship can sometimes put victims at greater risk, especially when the other person refuses to let go. It highlights the importance of taking threats seriously and seeking support early. 2. Reporting abuse is brave, but the system must protect victims. Asia showed great courage by reporting Deshawn's attempted assault and pressing charges. However, her murder before the trial exposes critical gaps in the justice system's ability to protect vulnerable victims. It raises awareness of the need for stronger victim protection measures, especially for those testifying against abusers. 3. Young lives can be full of promise and still be cut short by violence. Asia was only 17, filled with ambition, talent, and compassion. She was a student, an entrepreneur, a fashion designer, and a helper in her community. Her story is a reminder that even the most promising young people can become victims of senseless violence, and that society must do more to protect its youth. 4. Silence and fear can enable crime, but speaking out can lead to justice. While the initial investigation struggled due to a lack of leads, justice began to unfold when one of the accomplices, Daja Feaster, chose to break her silence. Her confession helped uncover the truth. This shows that speaking out, even when difficult, can be key to holding perpetrators accountable. 5. Justice delayed isn't justice denied, but it comes at a heavy cost. It took nearly 3 months from Asia's disappearance to the arrests of those responsible. Her family and community endured weeks of fear, pain, and unanswered questions. Although justice was eventually served, it was a long and traumatic journey. The lesson: society must do better at preventing tragedies, not just responding after the fact.